AOC, she was on CNN with Chris Cuomo, and he asked her the classic question about Medicare for all, but how are you going to pay for it? So she gave him a great answer. Let's take a look.
Well, first of all, the thing that we need to realize is people talk about the sticker shock of Medicare for all. They do not talk about the sticker shock of the cost of our existing system. You know, in a Koch brothers funded study, if any study is going to try to be a little bit slanted, it would be one funded by the Koch brothers. It shows that Medicare for all is actually much cheaper than the current system that we pay right now. And let's not forget that the reason that the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act is because they ruled that each of these monthly payments that everyday Americans make is a tax. And so while it may not seem like we pay that tax on April 15th, we pay it every single month, or we do pay a tax season if we don't buy, these plans off of the exchange. So we're paying for this system. We Americans have the sticker shock of healthcare as it is. And what we're also not talking about is why aren't we incorporating the cost of all the funeral expenses of those who die because they can't afford access to healthcare? That is part of the cost of our system. Why don't we talk about the cost of reduced productivity because of people who need to go on disability, because of people who are not able to participate in our economy, because they're having issues like diabetes or they don't have access to the healthcare that they need. I think at the end of the day, we see that this is not a pipe dream. Every other developed nation in the world does this. Why can't America? And that is the question that we need to ask. We have done these things before. We write unlimited blank checks for war. We just wrote a $2 trillion check for that tax cut, the GOP tax cut, and nobody asked those folks how are they going to pay for it. So my question is, why is it that our pockets are only empty when it comes to education and healthcare for our kids? Why are our pockets only empty when we talk about 100% renewable energy that is going to save this planet and allow our children to thrive? We only have empty pockets when it comes to the morally right things to do. But when it comes to tax cuts for billionaires and when it comes to unlimited war, we seem to be able to invent that money very easily. And to me, it belies a lack of moral priorities that people have right now, especially the Republican Party.
So our friend, Chris Cuomo, aka Fredo, our friend Fredo just got schooled by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I think she gave him an eloquent, excellent, graceful answer. You know, she hit a home run with that. She made an excellent point, which is how come when it comes to, bombing the crap out of the Middle East, y'all got the money. But when it comes to giving healthcare to your own people, we can't really afford that. Might have to think about it for like 50 years or something, That is a great point. That is an excellent point. And no one is ever asked this question. Ever. Please, I'm going to give you guys some homework, okay? I'm going to give you some homework. Please go and find me one clip on CNN, Fox, whatever, of a politician being asked, how are you going to pay for that war? Just one clip. I bet you can't find it. You know why? Because the military industrial complex owns Washington and it owns the media. The media, CNN, Fredo, yes, Fredo himself, our friend Fredo, they are all tools of the establishment, okay? They're not there to question, why are we going to war? How are you going to pay for that? That's going to cost trillions. Where are you going to get that money? No. They're there. They sit in their nice little seat and they, tuck their papers in and they start reading to the evening news to make the case for war, not to oppose it. We've seen this during the Iraq War. We've seen how they would drum support up. They would rile up the people for that 24/7, man, before the invasion. I remember. Nobody told me this. I didn't have to go back and watch it. I remember it. I seen it with my own eyes. I was there. Okay? So we don't need more establishment hacks like this coming to Bernie's face, to AOC's face. Since she endorsed Bernie Sanders' campaign now, so she speaks on his behalf too. We don't need Chris Cuomo and the establishment media asking us the same question 24/7. But how are you going to pay for it? I don't know, man. The same way every other goddamn developed country pays for it. You know what almost all other developed countries do too? They don't go to war all the time, with the exception of France and the UK. You get what I'm saying? So this is a garbage Republican talking point to try to deflect from the fact that, you have your priorities wrong. The money is there. The money has always been there. This is the richest country in history. You have the money. It exists. You have it. Voila. But your priorities are all screwed up. Your priorities are all screwed up. That is what it comes down to. And AOC gracefully, eloquently, sharply pointed that out. And everyone needs to be doing this, especially Bernie Sanders, especially every single time. I can't, but like, if I was in Bernie Sanders' shoes, as soon as I'm asked that question, I'd be like, why didn't you ask that to Donald Trump when he bombed Syria? Or Obama when he started intervening in Libya? Why weren't you asking him that question? I don't recall you asking him that question. You care more about bombing people than you do about giving American people health care? Bam, you sliced him into 4 pieces, man. It's over. Anyone watching that clip would immediately be with Bernie. I'm like, this is Bernie's weak point, man. He has great policies, but Bernie is not the sharpest one when he's answering these garbage Republican talking points. He needs to be razor sharp. AOC was getting there, right? But I think you need to go on the attack. You need to be like, hold on a second. Hold on. Let's back up a second. You weren't asking these questions to the warmongers. What's up with that? Oh, we had the money for that? I see where your priorities are. I understand very well now. That's how you do it. That is how you do it. There you go, man. So I think AOC did a great job. And, you know, she made a great point also as well about all the lost productivity. Dude, there's like 40 million people who are underinsured. What do you think goes on with them? What do you think about all the wasted work days and work hours and that go? What about them? They go unaccounted for in this country because people don't have access to healthcare. What about, for example, the opioid crisis, which, I mean, was allowed to happen in the first place because all these pharmaceutical companies are rigging the system and the laws. But on top of it, this is related to a mental health crisis. Addiction is a mental health issue and it's going untreated. Why? Because millions don't have access to mental health care. They don't have access to therapy and drugs. What about that? You don't think that costs money to the economy? You don't think that puts a strain on the economy? It damn well does. Of course it does. And no one talks about those costs. You could alleviate those costs if you had a Medicare for all system. Not to mention, you have other costs with the private health insurance industry. They waste so much money, man. 20 cents on every dollar in the private health insurance industry is wasted on administrative costs. Medicare and Medicaid, which right now, the way they are run in the government, are extremely efficient. You always hear this garbage Republican talking point that, oh, you really trust the government to run something? Yes, man. They only waste 2% of overhead. 2%. The private health insurance, the capitalist private sector, wastes 20%. 10 times more. So yes, for once, the government actually does something better than the private sector. Where's your fucking argument now, smartass? The statistics are against you. The data is against you. Your argument is garbage. Take it home. So this whole garbage argument that the government can't run healthcare efficiently is bullshit. It already does. It just needs to be expanded to include everyone. And that's exactly what she's saying. There you go. That's not my point of view. Those are the facts. Those are the numbers. That's data. I didn't make up that data. Go Google it for yourself. And I think AOC did a great job. She did a great job, and everyone, every surrogate, every person who's endorsed Bernie Sanders needs to be talking like her, especially Bernie Sanders.